This is the sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shouting loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Eric Dawson Radio Show. You guys can't see me, so you don't know why I'm laughing. Anyway, I got Diana Murray Clements on the line, and I got Vincent Squire hailing from South Jersey. He is a candidate running for U.S. Senator. He's running against Cory Booker here in the state of New Jersey. I want to welcome you guys to the show. How you doing?
Good morning.
How are you, Eric? I'm good.
Good morning, Diane.
Well, it's hot as hell, Diane. And it's supposed to be 89 degrees today. And under normal circumstances, I would be heading down to the beach. You know, if you guys checked out my photos last year, man, every day I could make it down to the beach, I was down there. You know, but I woke up this morning, I'm like, oh, I don't want to put on a button-up shirt. So I put on a V-neck T-shirt and like, you know, because I put it on and it's humid and everything, and I was outside, you know, watering my garden. You know, I'm all, you know, just sticky.
Checking on your neighbor's pigeons.
You know what, man? Nah, I left those pigeons alone. I left those pigeons alone, man. Those pigeons are probably smarter than I am. They're probably plotting against me. What is it? Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I'm leaving them alone. Leaving them alone. But welcome everybody. Listen, I don't know if you guys saw, but here's what I thought might be a theme, and I heard this today, and I posted it on my page simply because it made sense to me. And I'm going to read the quote. I'm going to read who it's attributed to. So it's attributed to Dr. Kelly Carter Jackson. And her quote is, "Fleeing requires violence. No one is going to just allow you to walk off of the plantation." Right? And when I heard that this morning, I said, you know, I agree. I agree with it. Now, I don't agree with the looting and the protest. I mean, the looting and the burning of stuff. And I'm not saying that people should all of a sudden go out there and start shooting people. I see people shooting at cops and throwing stuff at police officers. I'm not talking about that. But the reality of the situation is this: that when black people in particular, but poor people in general, become serious about a mass exodus from the plantation, it is not going to be nonviolent. It's not. If you believe everything that we're talking about in terms of, well, firstly, how their supremacy came about through violent and brutal measures, right? How it's been maintained through violent and brutal measures, right? And all that is at stake for them if we are no longer the commodity to their wealth and to their power. They're not going to just let us walk off. It's just not. So as I'm watching news, I was talking to you, Diane, and you, Vincent. Well, I didn't mention to you, Vincent, but I said to Diane, when she called in earlier, I said, Diane, you know, I had another one of my epiphanies as I'm listening to the news. They're talking about people marching and protesting for, oh, well, I did mention this to you, Vincent, marching and protesting for Mr. Floyd, right? So they're trying to minimize this. Now, I'm not minimizing his death, but they're trying to minimize the movement and make it about Mr. Floyd. Because if they can make it about Mr. Floyd, then it'll dissipate, like it did with Trayvon, like it did with Michael Brown, like it did with Eric Garner, like it did with so many others before Mr. Floyd, because it was about them. It was about Rodney King, you see. But when we become focused on the fact that it's about me, like personalize it. It's about me. It's about the boot that's on my neck. It's about the knee that's on my neck. It's about how the very life is being choked out of me and my loved ones. When you do that, right, then it takes on an entirely new meaning. But if you're protesting, if all of those things are about him and not about you and then us, but you first, put your mask on first, right, because the plane is going down. So put your mask on first and then help others. But yours, personalize it. Then takes on a whole different meaning. But the media, as I was listening to it today, this morning, is we talk about how they are complicit in a narrative that works contrary to what's in our best interest. And that this is the narrative where they should be saying, hey, listen, this movement is about people who have been violently and brutally kept underfoot. That's not what they're saying. It's about that guy. Do you hear the same kind of stuff?
Well, that's exactly what the media is now. It used to be investigative reporting, but you don't hear them saying that anymore. All they're doing is reporting from their point of view what they want you to see in the media. So, yeah, it has been minimalized. And that's why I said before, I don't understand what's the point of protesting when there's no agenda. There's no purpose. And once the emotions stop, all of this is going to dissipate and there will be nothing, and we'll go back to where we were before and further back again. Because every time we try to move forward and we don't make any progress, we actually take more steps backwards.
What the media is trying to do, that their experts are countering and pushing. Everybody right now is on the point of, no, we're not protesting for him, we're protesting for us. We're not protesting for the abuse of the police, we're protesting against systematic racism. So what every media has done is putting together a group of people, and they get these blacks that are supposed to be the influences of a large number of demographics. And when they push their narrative, they all seem to come back with 99.9% the same narrative. Every black person says, no, this isn't about this. The big thing that we're dealing with is this racism. That's what it's all about. The knee on the boot, the knee on the neck is the knee of the white man on black America that's been there since slavery. And the cavalierness of him, just with his hands in his pocket and being so nice and, having conversation while this man is slowly dying, is the same thing that white America has been choking the life out of people of color since slavery. That's what it's all about. And every last one of them have been saying that exact same narrative.
So it's not about that. And, I'm going to try, guys. Diane, you and Vincent won't be able to hear this if I can pull it off. But I'm going to play the clip that I was trying to download and play. So I'm going to see if I can get it queued up. And you guys listen to this, and I'll tell you. Well, I'll tell you guys what it is. Yesterday we were talking about how deep this is within the police department, right? So they're making it about Mr. Floyd, and they're making it about this incident and how we need to probably retrain people. And I said, you can't take somebody who has grown up their entire life believing one thing about black people and another thing about themselves and their superiority, and then they now have a gun and a badge, and then all of a sudden you want to retrain that out of them. It's not going to happen. And in conjunction, you have a politicized police department and union that makes sure that all the things we see are continuously covered up and protected. So I'm going to play this audio clip, and then I'll tell you guys what it says, because you guys probably won't be able to hear it. But here we go.
We know it, but more needs to be done. Sam, the big question here is accountability as well, right? That when bad actors, as they say, act badly, something happens. It sends a message. When you look at the accountability factor, what stands in the way of that accountability, and how can that part of this be fixed?
So nationwide, only 7% of all reported excessive force results in an officer being held accountable, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics. Which means in 93% of cases where citizens report misconduct involving excessive force, officers aren't disciplined for it. Now, when we understand why that's occurring, we need to start talking about the systems and structures of accountability and the ways in which police unions in particular play an outsized role in informing what those structures look like. So we did a project where we looked at the 100 largest cities in the country and examined their police union contracts, the contracts between the police union and the city that are usually in effect in every 4 years, and then they get renegotiated. What we found was that in contracts in cities like Chicago, police misconduct records are destroyed every 5 years. In other contracts, they're destroyed on schedules of between 1 and 2 years. Those places with those contracts are less likely to hold officers accountable, more likely to have misconduct, and more likely to shoot people. So we have to talk about limiting the power of police unions to have a role in shaping the way in which communities can even possibly hold the police accountable, even if you have the best police chief and the best mayor. In many cases, they are limited in what they can do because the accountability system has already been negotiated away, and the unions have veto power over any changes to that structure.
So
Hey, Google,
what
turn
he
off my
talked
alarm.
about was the accountability. I'm sorry, Diane.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, what he was talking about was an accountability structure that has already been established by the unions in their negotiation. I'm talking about the police unions in their negotiation of contracts, and they were saying that, for instance, in Chicago, the police records, because you know how we were saying, Vincent, that they should be able to take these police records of misconduct and upload them into some national database whereby you'd be able to draw some conclusions about the likelihood of incidences occurring and be able to maybe mitigate those things. Well, what they were saying was that in Chicago, those records are purged every 5 years. And that's part of the contract that was negotiated by the police union. And it's in other cities, it's on a time clock that records of misconduct are purged as well. And so now you have, I want you to understand what I'm saying. So in the middle of this, we've been talking about police brutality for a long time. And then the first recording of it, right, big recording, which led to the riots in LA, was Rodney King getting the shit kicked out of him. Right, and so now, even after that, and now with the advent of the smartphone and video cameras and the internet and all of it, police unions are still negotiating to have records of misconduct removed from...
Because you're asking again for the criminals to monitor themselves. So, of course, they would do something like that. And, of course, the unions would be advocating for that. And people would, would be left, there's no real oversight. When you have the same people policing you, you can't have individual thought process where people can say, oh, this is wrong or that's wrong, because everybody's in the same pot. You have to have outside sources that are not related to be oversight. You have to have community people involved in the oversight of police. That's the only way that's going to work.
So Diane and Vincent, would you say then, if because these statistics, this information that I just played in the audio file, is fact. And so now when we have police unions endorsing political candidates, when we have political candidates seeking out the endorsement of police unions, and now we understand that police unions are actively involved in hiding information by way of negotiated contracts that would be helpful in putting an end to the violence, that's a big problem.
And once again, you find out part of the system that we're looking to change. The big problem, as Diane said, is that we put the crooks in charge of policing crooks.
Right. But Vincent, I want to ask you this question though. When we say part of it, here's another part of the system. Can you have so many rotten parts that you say, again, we just have to throw it all out? It's kind of like what do they call a Dutch boy putting his finger in a dike, right? Because we got a hole over here, plug that. Got another hole over here, plug that one. And we run out of fingers and toes to plug the holes. Maybe we need to just blow the whole thing up and build a new one.
See, what we've been doing is that we have not been fixing the problem. I had my cousin, an older cousin who bought his first car. He takes me for a ride in his car, and I'm gonna date myself with the story, but the engine is so loud that it would backfire, and people think it's like a drive-by. And I said to him, "Yo, man, this car is trash. I mean, you got to get it fixed. The engine's bad. You can hear. Look how you hear how loud your engine is." So what my cousin did was he turned up his 8-track. He said, "Do you hear the engine now?" That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. We haven't been fixing the problem. We've been covering up the problem. When we start looking at, and the whole thing, once again, the problem, once again, is systematic racism. So let's take care of the exact nature, and these other symptoms will soon dissipate. See, we keep chasing down symptoms like it's a cold. You can't cure a cold, but what they do is they treat the symptom. They treat the running nose. They treat the headache. They treat the congestion.
Right, and I don't disagree with you. But if we're talking about not chasing down the symptoms, then because the narrative is being well crafted on both sides in the media, and it is symptom. See the symptoms, see the symptoms, see the symptoms. And so here is the prescribed medication for the symptom. So the prescribed medication for this symptom is electing this congressperson. The prescribed medication for this symptom is electing or voting out this senator. The prescribed medication for this symptom is electing this person as president. The prescribed medication for this symptom is and I'm saying it's all symptoms.
It's all the symptoms, but we have yet, in fact, they just actually, with the upgrading of the charges for the gentleman in Minnesota, or the police in Minnesota, they have not prescribed, they have not given the correct prescription for the cause. See, huge, they could take care of this with two things. One, let's go back to the hate crime, which makes it federal. And two, let's now increase the level of culpability for all involved. The police, the mayor fired the chief of police because his officers didn't have their body cameras on, taking care of the cause, taking care of the bad leadership. Because what you find out is that employees pretty much follow the direction of their leaders. If you have a racist, white supremacist police chief, what do you think he's going to hire? He's going to hire his good old boys. And they're going to follow his lead, and he's going to cover their butt because they're good old boys. So look, let's just kill it from the root now. And then all this other stuff will start to cease.
But wishful thinking. I mentioned this to you yesterday, Vincent. I was watching the news again, or listening to it while I was working, and people were elated that others were charged and charges were upgraded. And I said, you know what? That's a sad day for me, because that should not have been breaking news. It should be standard operating procedure, right? That when you do this, this is what happens. But now, again, what they've done is they held back, and then they gave it to you like a gift. And everybody is looking at this new shiny object and jumping for joy. And I'm saying, wait a minute, guys, slow down. Stop being so goddamn emotional. Stop it. Do you understand? To me, again, this is like somebody saying Black Lives Matter, and they say all lives matter. This is saying, you know what? You guys should be happy that we did this thing. Be happy. Be happy we did it. And I'm saying, no, there's something wrong with this. The fact that you had to do this, the fact that all of this had to occur for you to do that is symptomatic of the problem, right? And so all of a sudden the problem didn't go away. And this is why I'm saying when they're having a conversation about a march for or a protest for justice for Mr. Floyd. Please use your phone, Vincent. For Mr. Floyd, then I'm saying we're already off track in terms of our thinking about this thing. You know, like literally, we're off the rails already. And then I see Al Sharpton now showing up every single day. And to me, it signifies that we're really not ready, because he has no interest in helping us get off the plantation. In fact, he gets paid handsomely to ensure that we stay on the plantation.
Absolutely.
So when I see him there, I'm saying, yeah, this isn't good for
Absolutely. Because that's how he makes his money.
Back to him. People should be pushing back on him because, like you said, he's done nothing to push equality for Black people. He's only jumped on an issue. Every time there's an issue that comes up, he jumps on that, and then he jumps off.
Yeah. I mean, because listen, for me, and we talked about this, and now I want to talk about Don Lemon, because I heard that he called out Oprah Winfrey and called out Jay-Z and some other people for not doing anything. But if Al Sharpton and the rest of these Black folks are on these networks, right? Fact. America's knee has been on the necks of Black Americans since we arrived here and were enslaved. That should be their only conversation. That's it.
When are you going to get the knee off the neck?
When are you going to get the knee off the neck? They literally, their programs should be about these metrics that we talk about on this show that have black Americans, not African Americans, not people of color, but foundational Black Americans, right? Somebody asked me, what is a foundational Black American? It is it's a Black American who is a descendant of enslaved Africans who were responsible for the very building of this country. That is a foundational Black American. So, hope we understand that. So now, the whole conversation should be about that. Should be about that.
Well, there we go. Again, see, that's how they get us off subject, because once again, we do not attack the exact nature of the problem. See, when they had these guys on last night, and I watched Don Lemon, and I watched Rachel Maddox, and I watched the other guy. Now, they had the old generation of activists, and they had these new groups who aren't even considered activists. The old generation were all saying the same rhetoric. It's an injustice against the people that this man had to die like this. And the new school were saying, look, we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We are sick and tired of being pulled. Every time we see a police officer, we tense up because we might get pulled over. We are sick and tired of being followed by 3 security people in a supermarket. We're sick and tired of getting incredible misjustices, of paying absorbent tickets for something we didn't do.
That's all lies. You're not sick and tired because you've done nothing about it.
What do you mean done nothing?
You've done nothing about it. Protest does nothing. It does
Protesting
nothing.
does nothing.
I'm telling you.
Exactly.
So you call out these celebrities to do what? They don't have the problems that we're having. So why should they be concerned? They're not
Magic
issues.
Magic Johnson said he got the same problem.
No, but look, I'm gonna say it to you again. When you
Kareem
look-
Abdul said he got the same problem.
Right, but when you have, look, when you know what happens when you're sick and tired, Vincent?
What?
Think about it. Think about things that you've been sick and tired of. You talk about them all the time.
No, I stopped talking about it. I do it. I fix it. When I get sick and tired of it, I put it into action. Once I reach that level of intolerance for me, that it becomes a passion for me, no, I'm eliminating this.
Okay, well then you're an individual. But go ahead, Eric.
Right. So what I'm saying is this: you become obsessed with it when you're sick and tired. You have an obsession with it. And what I'm saying is they don't have an obsession with it. You see, so Magic Johnson talks about it when it's convenient, right? So now you hear him talking about it because this is going on. But before this happened, we didn't hear him talking about it. Like that, he wasn't obsessed with talking about it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wasn't obsessed with talking about it. None of these other people, Don Lemon wasn't obsessed with talking about it. None of them were obsessed with talking. When you're sick and tired of something, you are obsessed with it. You're trying to figure out how the hell do I get myself out of here? Every single minute, every second, you're thinking about it. You're obsessed with it. And what I'm saying to you, Vincent, is we're not obsessed with it. We're not obsessed with America's... No, let me finish. We're not obsessed with America's knee on our neck. We're focused now on this police officer's knee on Mr. Floyd's neck. That's what we're focused on. We're not sick and tired because we're not talking about the knee on our neck. When you have somebody, listen, when you got somebody out there who right now, black people who right now are the most marginalized people in America, who are dealing with all of the insecurities that they're dealing with, and they're carrying a sign for Mr. Floyd. And you understand how, like, there's something wrong with that. Like, yeah, not minimizing his murder. I'm simply saying, how are you focused more on that than you are on you? There's a psychosis. And as long as they see that, they being the corporation white supremacy, they say, see, we still got him. See, because you worry more about him than you worry about yourself. You're bleeding out. And then you don't tie a tourniquet on your leg, right? You sitting over there looking at this guy. So they know what? As long as you don't tie a tournament on your leg, what's going to happen, Vincent? You're going to die.
Of course.
Right.
But
And that's what they're
I'm
looking
seeing,
at.
Eric. And this is the sentiment that I'm getting. And this may be my personal belief and opinion, but I'm seeing this is now starting to catch fire like the Me Too movement, where people are no longer swallowing this and taking it for the team. People are now starting to speak out who were normally silent.
Wait a minute.
So
Let's
you
talk
talk
about the Me Too movement. Wait a
that was
minute.
started by a black woman that was hijacked by white
Thank
women.
you. Thank you.
No
You got to
black
stay
women or black
focused. Stay on
people were held
code.
accountable or got any justice.
And now let's talk about the Me Too movement. Let's look
here we
now.
go.
Let's look at how the Me Too movement. Let's look at how the Me Too movement got castrated. Right? So you have conversations now. You got this woman who has these accusations against a presidential candidate. And where's the Me Too movement? Nowhere. You understand what I'm saying to you? So when you say, well, I think it's like that because that thing was only until they smacked it down. And I'm saying, and I'm saying that that's exactly what's going to happen here because they have put around this thing slave catchers like Al Sharpton. And his job is to make sure that this thing doesn't get out of hand. They say, Al, we paying you handsomely, man. You better get these Negroes in place. Get them in line. And I said, I can do that. So he slicked back his hair, conked it. Now he's out there making the media circuit. Right? And they're giving him all of it. They're giving him all the airtime he needs to get this.
No, Al Sharpton's airtime has been drastically reduced now. They're giving it to more credible people. Everybody now is going after people like Laura Coates, Van Williams, and a couple of others.
Who?
Yeah.
Who?
You don't.
Who is? I'm telling you, MSNBC. Watch it. Watch it. They're giving Al Sharpton, they're putting him in front of this thing. So the family of Mr. Floyd has brought Al Charlatan in. And now,
No. Al Charlatan introduced himself to the family of Mr. Floyd.
No. But after he made the introduction, listen, I can knock on your door and introduce myself. It's up to you to invite me in.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And they said, "Oh my God, Al Sharpton's here."
Right. So, like I said, they brought Al Sharpton into their home. Right. And so now Al Sharpton is there. He's digging his heels in, right? Setting up camp. And now the media is going to give him everything he needs to be able to manage this thing. So in the end, you know, he minimizes the amount of stuff that gets damaged, right? That they continue to try to rail away at Trump and the racial divide in America as though it's his fault, right? And nothing is going to change because we're not focusing on the problem. We're focusing, like you said earlier, on the symptoms. Here's a symptom, guys. Let's focus on it. So, you know, I'm watching it, and
see, and that was the rhetoric that Al Sharpton did. That's why he got completely dismissed. When Al Sharpton got up there and said, you know, focus on the symptom and the knee on the neck and the Black Lives Matter. No. Laura Cole said, no, you're talking about one thing, and we need to talk about the major thing that would eliminate these multiple things that you're talking about. We need to do something to make a law and make these hate crimes stick and make people get prosecuted for them and make them do hard time. Let them find out that being a racist does have some consequences. And he had nothing left to say. We have to stop going through this back and forth and BS of who's delivering the message and that other crap, and let's just simply stick to the same code. Let's stick to the code.
What's the code?
What's the same code right now? Shouldn't everybody be tired of being a victim of the systematic racism?
Is that the code?
That should be our point. Okay, everybody that does.
Everybody's tired now. Now what?
Okay, now that everybody's sick and tired of it, then like Eric says, now that you're sick and tired of, you are obsessed with eradicating it. So every time that something flares up that has a tinge of racism, that we therefore now use that and deem it a hate crime. Let's get some federal prosecutors on it, because what we find out is what happens in these towns is that as you said, Diane, they got the crooks to police the crooks. So even though if these guys do get charged, what we found out before was first they weren't getting a true bill. Then we found out that they were getting a true bill and indicted, but they were overcharged and they were getting charged with something that they could not prove, thanks to, again, the county prosecutors. So now, if we stick to this federal code and this hate crime and keep it under those guidelines, then we can prove that this was racially or bias motivated. These people get to do hard time.
Let's see if I can get this call. Hold on one second.
The worst thing about it is now, once again, we have to now enact legislation against immoralities and prejudiceness. But what we've been doing so far has not been working.
Let's see if I can take this call, Vincent. Hold on. Hello, caller.
Hey, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning.
I wanted to say to Vincent, Vincent, code is not about police brutality. On code is black equality. I don't care about police brutality. I care that I have the opportunity in society to live. Those are two different things. Right now...
First and foremost, I didn't say the code was about black inequality or police brutality.
You think that code was about police brutality?
No, I did not. See? That again. Now let me make it I don't want you to misquote me or me have to defend you misquoting me. Let me be clear in what I said. Let's stick to the code of dealing with the systematic racism in this country.
You did not mention systematic racism in that last statement you made. The word systematic racism. After Diane asked you that question,
okay, but no, that's fine. But if that's what he meant, if he had taken an opportunity to clarify,
if that's what he meant, then he's saying what I said: equality.
Right.
Systematic racism equals fixing equality.
That's what I said.
That's what you're talking about. That's not what you said. No, it's what you said. This is okay. I'm cool with it.
But that is your sentiment, correct? So whether you said it or not, that's your sentiment. And if you didn't say it, then that's what you meant to say, right?
And if that's the case, then we're both saying the same thing.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. We're both saying the same thing if you're talking about racism or equality. That's what this is about. This ain't about police brutality. There's always going to be instances where police go over the top on both races, on all races. Correct. One is equality in how you treat the situation.
Correct.
Because they don't treat the situation the same.
Correct. And what I said was that police brutality is not the cause, it's the symptom. And we keep chasing after the symptom instead of getting to the exact cause. The exact cause is systematic racism, allowing the police the opportunity or the privilege to be overly hyper vigilant against people of color, allowing people to use their white privilix to get better jobs and bigger raises.
Right. No, well. So yeah, got it. So we need to look. I played that, and I don't know if you heard the audio clip, Farrakhan. So if we're going to have real conversations now around how to deal with police culture, the culture within the police department, the inequality, and all those other kinds of issues, we have to deal with these unions. We have to deal with these unions, and we have to deal with the influence that these unions have over setting policy. We have to deal with those things. And then we talked also about the judicial system, right? These three branches of government, right? The judicial system being one. But we talked on this show about how these judges are appointed, right? So that's all political too. So now if you have if you have in law enforcement, judicial, police, all of it is all politics, and we have no political power. We have no political power, but we understand that this is all politics. Then how do you expect it's going to change?
So, Eric, there was an article, and I sent it to you, I think yesterday, from CNN, the business section, and they talked about how there were 5 ways that corporate America could do besides tweeting to combat racism. And it's funny that you talk about the unions, because one of the 5 things that they talked about is supporting unions, supporting organized labor advocates, so that they can end institutional racism within the workforce.
That's the worst thing that they could do.
Yeah.
If you read the book by Frederick Douglass, he talked about how the union was the biggest organized racism there ever actually was.
Absolutely.
Because you had to be in the union to get the high-paying jobs, and the union
Don't yell, Vincent. Don't yell, Vincent. Don't yell. Don't yell.
Oh, I'm not yelling.
Yeah, you're
right. And that the people in the union were all the friends of the white people who actually got jobs for their family and friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't look. It's all, because unions are all political. They're all political, Diane. They raise money, they back candidates based on their particular agendas. But I want to stay on the police union for a second. And when we look, and guys, you can see, look, they do it right in front of you. So if you were to go through the photo albums of who attended the last League of Municipalities in Atlantic City, you would see that there were police union representatives there, right? Smiling and dancing and partying and drinking with the mayors, right? And with, other elected officials. And then you have over here this conversation by these elected officials about how we need to deal with the culture of the police department. And I'm saying, but you just took a check from the union that is negotiating, not only a check, but you took an endorsement too from the union, from the very union that negotiated that records of misconduct by police officers be tossed out over a certain number of years. You did that. You did that. And then you come back and say, and I'm fighting against them. Which is why I say, if they're taking money, anybody, any organization, any politician who is supporting or taking money from this beast that you say you are being attacked by, this structure, right? This institution, they are feeding it.
Yeah.
They're not fighting against it. They're strengthening it.
Let me give you an instant replay on that power move that you just discussed. So, basically, the unions in their binding negotiation contract said that, okay, what we're going to do now is all the people who have bad records, after 5 years, they get expunged. Okay? Great. So, you know what happens to a cop who has been written up for police brutality, right? He can't get a job as a cop. But now, 5 years from now, guess what he gets to do?
Oh,
now he could be a cop again.
Yeah, now
and he could be employed by the same group that fired him.
Right. And that is a problem. Hey guys, listen, what is this thing? I saw the headline. Drew Brees is apologizing for some insensitive comment he made.
Yeah, he did it too.
He made a comment about his grandfather serving, I guess, in one of the wars, and that I don't understand it from the response that some of the other players were there saying that surely your father was in war, but there were black guys standing next to him. Something about dealing. I don't know, like real. I don't know, Vincent. You sound like you were about to say something, but apparently he made some comment about his grandfather in war, and I guess we all need to kneel for that kind of thing, or not kneel, stand for the it was going against the Kapakaman.
Okay, so the former Eagles that's now playing for what was it, Malcolm, posted a tweet about now the police officers, when they had the chance to take a knee with Kaepernick, everybody was fussing about the knee, taking away from what the knee stood for, police brutality, or the injustice of blacks being killed by police officers. So Drew Brees came back and said that taking a knee is an insult to everybody who he talked about his family who served in World War II, and he found it to be disrespectful because Drew Brees didn't understand the meaning of why he was taking a knee and what that was all about. He was going with the rhetoric that they tell the white masses of he's disrespecting the flag and the country by taking a knee during the national anthem. So somebody got a hold of Drew Brees and gave him the breakdown of what it's really all about and what the rioting is really all about.
Right. And you know what? So here's what I'm saying. And you know what? I've had in my life white people who have come and have asked in all earnestness, explain this to me. Explain it to me. I don't understand it, and I want to understand it. And the first thing that I get from that is, you know what? See, this is where our educational institutions have failed, which is why I say we need to throw out all of the books, because how do you have an adult who's now gone through public school and they have no understanding at all of slavery? None. Zero. How does that happen? And so now you got this adult whose views, white adult, whose views are framed by their white privilege, right? Because that's what they're experiencing. I'm sorry?
Thank you. Thank you. I was about to say the exact same thing. Thank you.
okay, their answers, the reason they have no understanding of it is because their white privilege allows them to ignore it.
No. Here
You know what the police kneeling?
No,
The police are not kneeling in solidarity with capacity. They are kneeling to quell the situation.
I understand that. I understand that. And I understand. Let me get back to my point. So my point is this, that if you were to institute a curriculum that accurately addressed, please mute your phone, that accurately addressed or taught slavery and taught all of these issues concerning America and the Black American, I think that you'd have different outcomes. Right?
Well,
I'm not saying that you would convert everybody, but you would certainly have some different outcomes. So you take a guy like Drew Brees, I don't know his heart, right? And yes, he's got to acknowledge his white privilege and all of that. But now if you had somebody who was able to step to him and explain it to him, and so in them explaining to him, he has a better understanding and is now apologizing for anything that, what he said to be offensive.
He's apologizing so he won't get any, lose any contract.
Well, that may be true too. Look, but like I start off by saying, but I start.
The whole key
Wait a
to
minute.
combating racism is
guys.
getting everybody in their pocket.
All right, listen. Listen,
say something?
Farrakhan. In a second you can. In a second you can. He may be doing it for contracts. I don't know his heart. I don't. Right? And so if I took him at his word and said, you know what, here's a person who said, a white person who said, I learned something. I'm saying it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And we need to figure out at an earlier age how to teach it. That's what I was saying. Go ahead.
Well, okay, and I want to say to that, the reason so many people in white America don't seem to have this disconnect with the issue of slavery, even though they are taught it. In school, you are not taught that slavery is wrong. You are just taught that there was slavery in America, or that there was slavery in the world. See, when I was in Montville, and I was going to school, and they were trying to teach us about slavery, they never told us that slavery was wrong. See, those other 26 white kids in the school that were in that classroom with me, they were never told slavery was wrong. They were just told that in this country, it was built through slavery. See, that what you say in the statement is just as much important as what you're teaching. See, they taught us about slavery, but they told us that what's that with the Jews? The Holocaust was wrong. They never said to us slavery was wrong, that the United States of America was wrong for doing it. They only told us that they did it. That's why white people don't have the same connection to the issue. Because for them, I was never told it was wrong. I was just told about it. That's all they know. They know that there was slavery. They do not know that slavery was wrong. Nobody's telling them. Even look in the school book. In the school book, it doesn't say slavery was a horrid thing. It doesn't say that slavery was wrong. It just tells you how they did it. It almost becomes the roadmap of how to do it again. Well, they say don't do it again. Right. Find me a school book that a 5th grader or a 6th grader that's learning about American history where it says this should never happen again. It's not in one.
But what they and if I could add to what you're saying, Farrakhan, it also desensitizes them to the injustice and the cruelty that happened during slavery.
Right.
They feel like
that's the point he's making.
Let me finish.
But that's the point. But he made that point already.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Part of white privilege is not understanding the cruelty and injustice of slavery, or understanding that these people were slaves and they were a commodity. But they're saying that slavery stopped because of the benevolence of white people. I don't know why we stopped it, but we did. But we got to deal with them anyway.
Right.
That's the whole mindset.
Right. Here's where I think in them not teaching slavery correctly is that they annex it, right? And it's an annex to the Civil War. And then that's it, right? So when they talk about it in relationship to the Civil War. They don't talk about it in terms of the economic structure of this country. They don't talk about it in terms of the brutality that was involved. They don't talk about it in terms of legacy, wealth passed down legacy wise. They don't talk about it in those respects. And so, to both of your points, in the end, it's this asterisk. Do you understand that? Like, it's this asterisk when in fact it is the cornerstone. But they've been taught that it's an asterisk. It's something that happened, but the level of importance is not what everybody's making it out to be.
Well, Eric, that's not their fault. The fault is on us.
No,
I
agree.
Is to educate our own. When you talk about the educational system, of course we need to increase our educational system so that we're teaching about the pure history of America and how we starting with slavery. We had the Amistad Commission here in New Jersey. They let that do nothing. Funded by the government, our tax dollars. The governor said, here, go create this program. Here, put a curriculum together and put it in the school system. And it went from one high school class that you could get in, African American history class. That was back in the 80s. One class, one teacher, so everybody couldn't be in the class and only certain people could be in the class. Then it moved to Black History Month. Then it went from Black History Month down to maybe a couple of days inside of the month of February to this past February of this last year where they basically did nothing. So it is not their fault. We don't hold people accountable to do what they want to do. However,
thank you.
LGBTQ community got a curriculum put in there and said they're going to do it in middle school, that everybody has to take it, high school, everybody has to take it, and nobody was in an uproar about it.
They got their own bathroom.
And they came back and said, why aren't you teaching Black history? Then they came back and we talked about it for the last 2 years about reparations. Mm-hmm. Then just in October, November time, right before elections again, they started to say, oh, well, let's put a reparations commission together so we can talk about that in New Jersey. So all these Black people, elected officials got together and said, let's do something and let's do this, to shut them up because now this is getting more time than it should be, only because the Democratic primaries, before the primaries, the Democratic Party were still selecting their nominees. Then that died down. So here we are now today, and now in their uproar and a protest, they have no agenda. This is why we get nowhere. They jump on, they jump off. They on this side of the fence today, next week they on the other side of the fence. They are not consistent with what they do.
No, they're very consistent. No, they're very consistent with what they do.
On code.
No, they're very consistent with what they do, right? And like I said, the Corporation White Supremacy, they have a winning record.
No, white supremacy is because Black people are not being consistent.
Oh no, they're consistent. They're consistent too. They're consistent in doing what they've been trained to do, what they've been conditioned to do. They're very consistent. This thing is running. It is running the way that it was designed to run. It's all consistent. If it weren't, then we wouldn't have. If it weren't consistent, we wouldn't have the protests right now. We wouldn't have the marches right now. We wouldn't have a need to say Black Lives Matter if it weren't consistent. The fact that it is consistent, it's running like a well-oiled machine.
So it's consistent in actually keeping us.
That's right.
It's
running efficiently.
It's like the hamster on the wheel.
It's running the way that it was built to run.
So Mark Duncan in the Thief says that the murder should be a catalyst for sparking an entirely new movement that should be laser focused, blowing up the status quo, using our political and financial power. We have no power.
I don't. For me, I don't want to. I think to focus on the murder, right? when somebody else is being murdered right now. Somebody else is receiving some unjust treatment right now. And so instead of looking and saying that's happening now, right? It's a living, breathing thing that's impacting us right now. If we say, well, we're not focused on that, we're going to focus on this murder that happened. It happened when? A couple of days ago, a few days ago. So we're not going to focus on what's still happening. We're going to focus on what happened. I'm saying we have to recognize that we are fighting a living, breathing organism. It is a disease, much like COVID-19, right? And we're saying, look, this thing is still here, right? You can't rest, you can't relax on it. You gotta stay vigilant, right? All those conversations we're having around COVID-19. This is how we should be. That's why I called it a disease yesterday, Farrakhan. We have to look at it and say, this thing is here. It's mutating, right? It's mutating. So when I say, or we've said on the show, that they changed the mousetrap, right? That is the mutation of the disease. So but to stop and say we're focusing on that thing and we're going to try to organize around that, I think is a big mistake. I think that we have to recognize for once, and this is where we'll get sick and tired. See, because we can't really get sick and tired. You could feel for that guy. You could feel for his family because we've all experienced it, right? So when you hear somebody say, man, I got stopped by the police, or I got whatever, you know somebody personally who's gone through the same thing. So you can identify with it. But when it happens to you personally, and it's different now. And I'm saying that this stuff is happening to you right now. They talked about on the news today, I think they said, well, the people filing for unemployment is now at 42 million. They're saying that the unemployment rate is going to hit 20%, they believe. They're saying that 40% of black folk who were working are currently unemployed. Now, see, that ain't about him. None of that is about him. And that's not about Donald Trump either. It is about a system that has been working to marginalize you, to keep their boot on your neck. That's it. And until you feel that pain and are sick and tired of that, right? So that may be what winds up happening now. Through all of this, people may start saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm feeling kind of shitty too. Yeah, they did that to me too. Now, when they do that, that should be the Me Too. That should be the new Me Too movement. Yeah, he did it to me too. See, they didn't just do it to him. They did it to me too. And when you do that, then somebody's going to pick up a 2x4 and look to go upside somebody's head. But until then, as long as they can get you focused on Mr. Floyd and emotionalizing around Mr. Floyd, his family, he's going to be buried. I think the funeral's today.
Yeah, they're taking him out and putting him in there right now.
Right.
As we speak.
Right.
But and that is the key. Let us stop. Let us stop being distracted by these little shiny objects that they're passing in front of us. Stick to the code. It is time now that we work on eradicating, inoculating, and killing this disease called systematic racism.
And Al Charlatan today said, oh, I think this is different now. And they asked me, said, why? He said,
racism isn't going anywhere. We have to stop talking about racism. We cannot cure racism because we cannot cure differences in people.
I don't think you're trying to cure racism.
I'm not trying to cure it, but I do want those people who do show when it does raise its ugly head that they be punished and punished severely.
So we're back to what Farrakhan says. So it's not about race, it's about equality. Right? It's about dealing with that. It's about saying, yeah, when those things occur, that there's equal justice, right? So we're looking for that. I'm not trying to change your mind. You could have all the Ku Klux Klan members you want to have, but if there are laws that you break, I want to make sure that you get punished like anybody else.
There you go.
That's it, right? So it's not about changing the heart and soul of a KKK member. But it's
as Black Americans, right? We have been approaching it about trying to take the heart and soul out of the races. Literally, if you look at the news, every black person on there that's supposed to be representing black people is talking about changing
but that's what I've been saying, Farrakhan.
Right.
That's the whole point that I've been making.
Right? No, I got you. I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we have to change the discussion from we trying to love everybody and make everybody love. So, right, and when you hear that narrative, only love can fix this, only love can beat this hate. Oh no, you're never going to fix this situation. Differences can't be fixed like that.
Listen.
What we have to do is have equality.
Farrakhan, did you
break the law, you get the punishment.
Right, but did you? So in the beginning of the show, I said, so go ahead and make your point, Vincent, and then I'll go ahead and say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
I was just agreeing with Farrakhan.
Okay.
The simple fact is this, is that when they raise their ugly heads, we sit up there and we prosecute them. Not only do we prosecute them, but we take every last possession that they freaking have.
Right.
We don't have to change the heart of it, but we do have to make them think twice.
Right. So if, guys, the goal, and this is why I'm saying I think that the Al Charlatans of the world, the media of the world, they all have us distracted. The interest should be, I believe, it should be fighting for and obtaining economic and political power, right? And so the quote that I put up earlier, which said, I'm going to try to find it again, but I use it as the theme for today's show, which is, fleeing the plantation demands violence. But her actual quote, which, just stopped me on, she said, fleeing requires violence. No one is going to just allow you to walk off of the plantation. So if you're telling somebody that you're fighting for economic and political power, that means you're trying to get off the plantation. That's what it means. And to Farrakhan's point, all of the conversations that they're having. I'm sorry?
It does not mean that it means you're trying to stay on the plantation. See, if you want to go off the plantation, you don't care nothing about what you just said. You
economic and political.
You want your own. You want independence. See, that's what leaving the plantation is. Leaving the plantation means I ain't gonna see you no more, master.
No. You're
not gonna have nothing to do with me. No, you can't do that. I hate when people try to rechange the simple words of what a person said. Person said, leave the plantation.
No.
They ain't said when they said fleeing means you ain't working with them no more, bro.
Farrakhan.
Fleeing means I'm gone.
Farrakhan.
Fleeing don't mean we gonna sit down at a table and negotiate. That's not fleeing. Fleeing is you see my back. That's fleeing.
Farrakhan. Well, okay. So I would. I don't want to. We could save this for a whole nother show. But when you look, I'm just saying, fleeing to me, when somebody's fleeing from me, I see nothing but their back. Yeah, there ain't no conversation. Yeah, and that's how we got to be. Yeah, my back. I think that
pardon my back. Yes.
Yeah. So the world that we live in, right? The world that we operate in. All countries are operating based on having economic and political power to be able to stave off those who would seek to take them over and to be able to negotiate for things that they want, right? Economic and political power. So when you say leave, unless you're talking... I'm sorry?
See how they get it. Eric, you're making my point for me because I understand that the top 5 countries of the world, the most powerful ones,
right,
all said, pardon my back, to the rest of the world.
No. Right, because Russia, no. But let us be clear.
China,
North
Korea,
but
England, and United States of America.
Farrakhan, I don't know if you can hear.
All turned their back on the rest of the world.
Farrakhan, can you hear?
And did it their way, and then let the rest of the world.
Farrakhan, can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Is there a delay?
No, I hear you.
Okay. All right. So what I'm saying to you is this. When you talk about China, they have economic power. They have political power. when you talk about in terms of how they negotiate with other countries, when you talk about Russia, they have economic power, they have political power, right? So all of them that you're talking about have economic and political power, and they're fighting to.
Eric, you must have not heard me. I said, how did they get it? Russia closed its borders to the world and built its country. China closed its borders to the world and built its country.
So now you're talking about right, but Farrakhan, but you're talking about.
You're talking about. I'm telling you,
Farrakhan.
you get economic power, brother.
Farrakhan.
You get economic
We gotta
power,
have a
brother, by separating.
Right, we got to have a
That's
conversation without the
We're not fighting, bro. I'm just saying. You're using an example. You're saying all the countries of the world got economic power and political power by doing something. I'm telling you, but we know that what those countries that did it most powerful did was close their borders to the rest of the world and work inward. That's what they did.
Right. So
China had a 5-year plan. Russia had a 5-year plan. Inward. They didn't care what was going on in England. They didn't care what was going on in
Farrakhan. Farrakhan. But all right. All right. I'm gonna spend a couple seconds on this, right? So, you talk about methodology. I said that we need to be fighting for economic and political power, right? And now we're talking about methodology and fighting for it, right? And so you're saying that these countries close their borders. I'm saying to you that there are laws right now that prevent us from being able to do certain kinds of things. They prevent us from being able to do certain kinds of things. And so we don't live in a different country where we can close some borders, right? We don't live there. We live here. And the laws that dictate to us are laws that are holding us back. And in order for us to get those laws changed, right, we have to seize political power. See, you can't equate somebody who lives in New Jersey. Wait a minute. You can't equate somebody who lives in New Jersey who is subjected to the high taxes, the foreclosures, all of the different things. You can't equate them to China or to Russia or to any of those other countries that close off their borders. Close your border off. You can't do that.
May I respond?
Sure you can.
Okay, you just now. Gentlemen, if I could.
No, I want to hear Farrakhan's response.
Okay. But you just said we live in a country where you can't do that, and I'm going to say to you, oh no, there are plenty of communities in this country where they operate damn near totally separate. They still have to operate under the laws of this country, but they operate on their own society.
Who?
You can go to Brooklyn, New York. You can go to Brooklyn, New York right now, and you will find sections of Brooklyn where every store is in Hebrew, where they have their own policing, where they don't use NYPD, they use their own policing. Okay? When the NYPD comes into their section of Brooklyn, they ask permission. They don't lock nobody up until the Jews say lock them up. Don't tell me that you can't operate in this country separate. Oh, you can.
Okay.
You can.
So we're just now. Right. What I was going to say, and Farrakhan just basically confirmed it, is if I could quote the movie Scarface, "No, Chico, in this country, first you make the money, then you get the power, then you make more money because now you got political power. That's how you move in this country, and it's right."
Right. So you don't believe that those Jews have political power?
They do because
no. I'm asking Farrakhan.
Yes, they have political power now. Okay, they consolidated themselves, and then they got that political power.
No. So now again, you're talking methodology, right? So we can have the conversation about methodology. My simple statement was that we need to be focused on economic and political power. That was my statement.
You've made that statement for years. It's time to get to the methodology. If we don't get to the methodology, it's never going to happen.
Right.
So what I'm saying, let's have that conversation.
Right.
I don't need no conversation about what we need.
Right.
I want to know the technique.
Right. So the other piece that I said, which took us off to this other thing about turning our backs, was the quote that I made in reference to the kumbaya that seems to be happening over all of the media channels, right? Where everybody's trying to love their way out of this. The statement that or the quote that I made from Dr. Kelly Clark, that I quoted from Dr. Kelly Clark Jackson, was she said, "Fleeing requires violence. No one is going to just allow you to walk off of the plantation." And I'm saying again that right now, for those Jews that you're talking about, or any other group of people, right? They work to get political power by having economic power. We are in a different situation than they are, right? We're in a different situation than any other person here in this country. And so as we seek to leave the plantation, we could talk about whether they were ever on the plantation, but we are. And seeking to leave the plantation is not going to be through hugging our way out of it. That there is going to be there's going to be a confrontation. There's going to be a clash because of what we represent right now as the commodity to the wealth and power of those who are working very hard every single day to maintain the status quo. That was the statement that I made. And turning our backs on it and being like Russia or being like China or any of those other countries, that's not going to work.
So then do you advocate black folks saying, okay, it's time for war, let's go kill a couple of white folks?
Well, no. What I'm saying to you is this. Listen, you asked me a question, but you asked me a question. But you asked me a question, then you answered the question. So if you want my answer, okay, I'll give you my answer. So what I'm saying is this. I'm not saying that you go out and you go hunt some white folks to kill, but you recognize that as you seek to flee, as you seek to do that, be prepared to defend yourself. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so be prepared to defend yourself, but what's the best way to defend yourself, Eric?
I don't understand.
Listen, if you have an open enemy and you see your open enemy, don't you think you should just go ahead and get rid of them?
Yeah, well, I studied martial arts, and my sensei taught me that an offense is the best defense.
There you go. But you're saying go fleeing, and then as you're fleeing, if somebody comes out, you block it, get them, punch them. No, man, you got to punch them first. Get them off guard.
Yeah, and talking to women who have been
police kneeling. You got police in this country kneeling with people tearing shit down. Why? Because they're afraid now. If you want to know why they've allowed 8 days of unrest, when they know they could shut it down in 2 or 3, was because
they're afraid.
They were fearing that the people that they were going to try to clamp down on might turn on them.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I don't think that we're having any disagreement on that. I'm simply saying that that we need to focus on achieving political economic power. And political power is gained by having people. So if we want to talk about the Jews in New York, right? By having an understanding between that community of Jews and those politicians who are in office, that this community of Jews can keep them in office or remove them from office. So the policies that they enforce or write, that they benefit that community. You see? So I'm saying that that's where we need to be. We need to be there. And as we get there, and so it does happen, right? There are cases.
So can we agree to this then? So then we don't really need to actually be politicians. There's not a lot
Oh
of
no,
church
no!
politicians.
I've never said
Right.
we need to be politicians. See, that's what I'm saying. So now we're having a
That's all
conversation
you
about
guys
method.
talk about.
I'm sorry.
Is getting in office, putting black folks in office.
No.
We don't need them in office.
No.
We need to control the people we have in office.
Well, no. So here, what? No. So what I've said and what we've adopted
But
on this
therein
show.
lies the problem. We have no control over the people in office.
But what we've
So
adopted.
we need.
But what we've adopted on this show, and I play it every day, is getting away from the symbolism, Farrakhan, of just electing black people, right? Because black people being in office are going to do something for us. And as Representative Ayanna Pressley says, no more black faces without black voice. So if you're going to vote for a black person, well, understand that person should be installed there to represent your interests. And again, I'm advocating that the interests be economic and political power. So if I'm going to vote for you, if you're running Farrakhan and you say to me, hey, Eric, I'm going to fight for economic and political power, that's what I'm going to do, then I'm voting for you. So that's what I advocate.
Then let us say this. We need to now that we have an agreement of what we need, the next step and is to obtaining what we need.
Right. And so methodology, which is why I say that is not going to be achieved by voting for either of those people who are running for president of the United States. That's why I say, so you say, well, how? I say focus on down ballot. Why? What do I say? I say make contributions to the woman Amy who's running against McConnell. Right? I say make a contribution to her. I say make a contribution to AOC who's having a tough time right now.
Because she's a voice of change.
That's absolutely right. I say make a contribution to Ayanna Pressley. Go send some money to Ilhan Omar.
Because they're the voice of change right now.
You understand what I'm saying? So you
want
you want political power? You want political power, then you got to be willing to put something up for it. That's what I say.
Because
sitting here being fixated on two. But right now, in the two things that they're trying to get us fixated on, or we're already fixated on, they're trying to keep us on it. Fighting for Mr. Floyd instead of fighting for you. And then believing that Joe Biden and restoring the soul of America, and we still got to define what that is, but that by him being installed as president is going to cure all of this. Because we believe now, right? Because they told us that all of what we're experiencing is a result of Donald Trump being in office for 3.5 years. See, I'm saying we gotta be smarter than that. We gotta say, no, all of this stuff, yeah, he's a symptom for sure. And yeah, he did some shit. Yeah, got it. But I'm focused on something bigger. I'm focused on the thing that birthed that guy. I want to kill that. Because that thing is going to birth more. I want to kill it off. And I'm saying when you go to do that, much like when Ilhan Omar started speaking truth to power, what happened? They started threatening her life.
Right.
Her life. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying that she needs to go look for this. So she went to go look for them. For sure, Farrakhan. Right? She went to go hunt them down. And so did AOC. They go hunt them down to bring them to the light so that we could see them. And when they did it, to try to get us off of those plantations, they were met with violence.
Of course.
And I'm simply saying, and then you need to be prepared to defend yourself. That's what I'm saying. So when you go in there, when you go into that Lions Den, understand what you're getting into. And so this whole idea now of all of these black folks kneeling in the church with Biden. What the hell was that about? See, that's what I'm talking about. What was that?
That's about black folks not destroying stuff. The reason is, they use religion to control people and calm them down. So ignore the kneeling. Because the kneeling is just about if they're not. As long as they're kneeling, they're not running up throwing.
Hey, check this out. You want to? Can I ask you something?
Is about.
Farrakhan.
No.
Wait.
Let's clear that up. The European version of religion and adopting religion was to use it to control the humble masses.
Oh, pause. That is the religion that we practice in the United States of America, the European religion. Right? Let's not be confused about that. Okay, and half these Muslims is practicing the Arab Islam.
Okay, Farrakhan, you're talking to a brother who's working on a doctorate in theology. Now, a lot of people in the United States, especially black Methodists, do not practice or follow the Anglo-Saxon or the Roman Catholic level of theology. Now, because if you look at it, there is not one freaking, well, maybe there are a couple of Europeans, but if you look at the Bible, most of those people were in Africa. So let's not make this a white-centric religion. When the Europeans adopted, hold on, let me finish. When the Europeans adopted the religion through Pep and the Short, what they did, hold on, just one quick, 30 seconds. When the Europeans adopted the religion and teachings of Jesus, they decided to whitewash it so that they can therefore control the humble masses to keep them from revolting against them. And that process has been bastardized and been carried through for centuries and decades. That's why that's the big reason we had that big split in religion. But go ahead, what were you saying?
So again, to my point, when has it changed?
Okay, this is where it has changed in terms of religion, which would be the same model for us changing and getting what Eric has been talking about, our level of equality. It has changed in the simple fact that we have evolved. We have stopped taking what people say in terms of religion as the gospel and started learning how to read. Then from learning how to read, we graduated to the point of going to college and graduate. And then we got to the point of, hold on, let me finish.
You said 30 seconds, though, Vincent.
Farrakhan. Then we got to the point of learning and studying and finding the truth for ourselves. And then we started to now tell other people the truth. Okay. It grows and it progress. The same thing that Eric is talking about. We now have to start to get intellectually curious and stop taking everything as a headline and believing it to be the truth. We have to start digging for ourselves, finding the research, and then telling other people the truth about speaking the truth. Go ahead.
I'm going to ask you one question about it and leave it alone. So what are you doing different?
What are we doing different? Okay, let's look at what's been happening different. From the simple fact of Eric Gardner. In 6 years since his death, now they have a black mayor who has exacted change. Let's look at the death.
We've done nothing, Farrakhan.
No, we have, but it has been so marginal that for some people they cannot see the change.
Well, wait a minute. Stop for a second. Stop. I want to ask you this question. But wait a minute. I can't.
How they are using it differently.
I can't.
How are we using it differently? We are now using the understanding of religion differently and teaching and preaching that we're not talking about a Eurocentric Jesus with blonde hair and blue eyes. We have now used it to understand that, no, this man looks like us. And if he can do this and he can accomplish this, then we can. We use it differently in understanding that the children of Israel, like the descendants of Africa, were once slaves, but have now come into a position of power. So if it works for them, it can work for us. We have to now look at speaking truth to power and standing up.
Stop yelling.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have to now start looking at speaking truth to power and standing fast to getting our own justice back. We have to understand that the heroes that we're looking for to save us and our children happen to be us. And once we come to that
Stop yelling.
Okay, and once we come to that understanding, we need to start now standing up like men or adults.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting for somebody else to do it or being afraid of the backlash like AOC is getting.
Right. Yeah, my answer is still we're not doing anything.
Right. So right. That's what I'm saying. So it's like because what I would ask for is this. Whenever somebody tells me they're doing something, I want to see data. I want to see impact. I want to see where things are different, right? And that's why I say, when we think we're doing something, we're just that hamster running on that wheel, right? So we're running, but we're not going anywhere.
Okay, as of yesterday, they have removed one of the biggest racists in Philadelphia, who they honor with a statue. They removed the statue.
Right, but you know what? But again, but wait a minute. But you're still
progress.
But
That's
you're still talking about symbolism.
They also removed the statue of General Lee out of Richmond, Virginia.
So you moved the statue of General Lee, but the legislation is still in place that leads us to all these inequities. So what?
So we removed the statue, which is a start. We removed the flag, the Confederate flag from the Capitol. We did that, so now we've gotten that imprint of the most horrible period in America's history out of our physical mind. Now let us take the next step and work on the legislation.
Stop that! I'm yelling. Yes, I'm yelling. Stop that. Let's not erase the worst thing that ever happened to black people and get it out of our minds. I want that shit in my mind every day. I want it in my daughter's mind every day. Just like they want the Holocaust in every goddamn person on this planet's mind every day.
Thank you.
Okay, then let us get it out of the white mind.
But what Farrakhan is saying is this. Listen to what you just said out of your own mouth.
Farrakhan saying. He's saying that we should never forget, and I agree with that.
Well, that's not what you said. But that's not what you said. I just want to be clear. Wait a minute. Wait.
Okay, then I need to be clear.
Yeah, because we can't brush over that. We can't brush over what you said. And so now you might have meant something different, and so we can explore that. But that's not what you said. And that's what we've been arguing about. They literally are trying to dampen this down and push it back. And they're saying, here, you know what? Here's a shiny object. We'll remove this statue. Here's another thing. We'll take that thing down. Here's something else. We'll get on a knee. Here's something else. We'll do this. Meanwhile, nothing's changing. And so what Farrakhan is saying is, hey, look, because I understand that, I want to keep this in the forefront of our minds. Because only then will you at some point get fed up enough. But if you allow yourself to marginalize it, to put it on the back burner, because you look and see that this statue got taken down, because this thing is gone, and because somebody's on a knee, then you're not fighting anymore.
Well, I understand that. But that was not, wait a minute, I understand that, but that was not my sentiment.
Not only put that statue back, they should then put a slave statue right next to it and say, so now, we both get aside. The General Lee guys, they get to go and stand in front of General Lee, and on the other side of that square, you got the black people. We can stand by that slave that's hanging, right, or that's chained. And see, let's do it like that. See, we so scared. We so scared to face our reality. That's how you do it. You want General Lee up? Go ahead, kick your General Lee. But we gonna put John Smith should have been Kunta Kinte up. That's what we gonna do.
Well, in Philadelphia, we have Octavia Carter.
Now, check this out. Right. Which one you think is going to be a more scary scene? The ski of 10 black people standing there looking at that slave, or 10 white guys looking at General Lee? Which section you want to stand next to?
Well, actually, what's been happening around that statue, and one of the biggest reasons they have removed that statue is because all the white supremacists gather around it as a show of force and strength. What's been happening and why they removed that flag from the Capitol, because it's been a reminder of the simple fact that the South decided to cross themselves out of the 13 colonies.
So they
and one of the biggest things, 30 seconds, one of the biggest things in taking it down is because we have for decades sat up there and gave honor to the biggest losers in American history. The flag and General Lee.
So they removed the statue, but the laws were not changed.
A picture of a statue of Frederick Douglass right next to it. And then went and stood there. See, that's what you do. Just like you're worried about the white supremacists going and standing next to General Lee, I can go and stand next to Frederick Douglass. I can go stand next to the Nat Turner statue. I can go stand next to the like I said, the unnamed slave statue. We call it the X statue.
The Harriet Tubman statue.
Everywhere. Right?
Hey, I don't disagree with that.
But that's how you win.
I do not disagree with that.
So, got it. So, hey, Diane, what else is going on?
I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying to you, what I'm saying to you is what has been happening.
Right.
Now, if you want to make that the next step, then hey, I'm all for it. Let's get a GoFundMe and we can put that Frederick Douglass statue up in Newark.
Hey, Jay, I'm gonna tell you a family story. My most loved aunt, her name was Erica. She used to date a man that apparently used to beat and rape her viciously. I never knew this. I knew the man all my life, right? And so I was respecting him as my aunt's boyfriend. When I got older, 18, 19, is when I found out how hard he was to her. Like, my mother just happened to mention it. And I was like, what? Why y'all didn't say that back then? Because if y'all had said that back then, I would not have been shaking that man's hand. When I used to see him, even though he wasn't with my aunt anymore, when I would bump into him, I would shake his hand because I didn't know. And if we keep not letting our black folks know and not and take that statue away, we forget too. We start shaking the hand. I shook the hand of a man that raped and beat my aunt, my favorite fucking aunt. That burns me every day, but only because nobody ever kept it out there. They waited until she was dead. They waited until he was dead. I shook this man's hand for a woman who nursed me when I was sick. And he raped and beat her constantly, apparently. And everybody knew the shit. We can't do that. We can't say, let's not look at the evils. I want to see those evils so I know how to respond. I wouldn't have been shaking his hand. I'd have been chopping that shit off. Maybe instead of shooting the other nigga on the block for getting money, I'd have shot him, and I'd have felt better about it.
Farrakhan, I agree with the simple fact of never forgetting. But also what I'm saying is one of the things we don't have to do is give monuments to oppressors. That's all I'm saying. But we don't have to sit up here and immortalize people who have been having their name on our neck.
Wait, but Vincent, but we're not. Wait a minute, Farrakhan, but Vincent, we're not doing that. They're doing that, right? So when you say we, who's the we? Who's the we?
Well, let's see. The reason that these actions have taken
place. No, I asked you a very simple question. I don't need a whole thing. Who's the we?
Okay. The reason these actions have been taking place is because of the civil unrest and uprising. So what they're doing now is starting to do the little things so that
you sound like a politician. I'm asking you a very simple question. You said you talked about the fact that we don't.
The governor is taking down a statue in Virginia. The people of Flint, Michigan have elected the woman to be the mayor, and then under her tenure, she's already started erasing and eliminating the systematic racism and policies in the police department.
Right, but the question I'm asking you is this. When those statues were up, were you ever immortalizing them? Were you ever doing that?
No.
No, right. So I'm saying when you say we, I'm saying I was never doing that.
I'm saying we as in the people.
Right. So if we get back to what Farrakhan was saying before, and I agree with this, we're never going to eradicate racism, right? So the idea of removing the statues to give the impression that we're going to eradicate racism, it's not going to happen. Right? It is what it is. And those statues being up there reminds us that we have racist people here. When you take them down, or you allow people to stand up and tell you that they're doing that, they're somehow telling you that we're eliminating racism. No, you're not. You just took a goddamn statue down. That's all you did. That's all you did. Now, when the statue is up there, what it does is here's the thing, right? Would you rather have a Ku Klux Klansman in a suit and tie or in full regalia, so you know who he or she is? See, so the statue being up reminds us who America is, what America did. Taking it down And then having them stand there, right, and take photo ops gives this illusion. That's all it does. And
taking it down, me personally, and then for those of you who are listening, this is the view of Vincent Squire. And we may not share the views of Eric Dawson, co-host, and other people commenting, but I will say that for the record, I would rather deal with taking down that statue that has been a symbol of oppression and giving people a great deal of white privilege behind the misconception of this guy being the great emancipator or the great savior of the white race. I would rather have that statue down.
Right. But you know what?
And wait a minute, let me finish. I'd also rather us sit up here and continue educating our children and letting them know that this is what happened and working for it never happening again. I would rather for us sit up here like these children are doing right now, saying that I would rather die for my freedom, stay as a man, than die on my knees.
Right, got it. So look, I would rather so for me, just me, I'd rather that governor go in and burn every book in those public schools. Burn them all. Right? Because you do that's not symbolic, right? Because now you replace them with books that teach accurate information. The truth. That's absolutely right. See, taking the statue down, but still feeding them in those schools does nothing. Nothing.
I agree. But taking that statue down is a pretty good first step.
Nah.
Okay, well, let me tell you this about the statue. Generally, if you ask the average black male or female under the age of 35 what or who generally is, they're going to tell you it's a car and a Dukes of Hazzard show.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, if you think I'm wrong, test yourself out. I challenge everybody that's hearing my voice right now. I want you to the next 35 and younger black person you know, say, who General Lee? Or what's General Lee? I guarantee you it's coming back as a car.
I protested that back in the 70s when the Dukes of Hazzard was a TV show.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the significance or insignificance of what I'm saying of the statue. Okay? We have already changed in culture who General Lee is. Because I ain't gonna front. When I was a kid, I watched Dukes of Hazzard. My parents didn't tell me, boy, you better tear that off. Right? Until one day it dawned on them. Like, what is this Confederate flag on top of this car?
Yeah. Oh, and the horn played Dixie.
Right. So I just think that we become so distracted by all of this shine, and they've done a masterful job. They know which buttons to push, which levers to pull, and they know what's going to make us dance, what's going to make us smile, what's going to make us sad. You know.
There you go. Get the shiny objects in front of them.
But then at the end of the day, nothing changes, right? And so I'm saying that taking down the thing, so, you know, this whole idea that things are changing, they're not. The statistics bear out that
Eric,
in every major
and now it's down, that means that there is change.
Okay, so the word is incorrectly. It has not improved. There has been change, but it has not been any improvement.
Okay, there has not been improvements, which can basically be under the metrics of certain people. But there has been improvements under the lives of others.
Right. So I want to dispense with the whole thing of change, right? So I could take a dilapidated house, right, and I could go in there and take a brick and move it from one side of the room to the other side of the room. So yeah, I changed that, but the house is still dilapidated. So if we could parse the word change. So I changed it. I moved the brick from over here to over there, right? But when we look at the house, the value of the house hasn't improved. So when Diane says no improvement, the value of the house hasn't improved. Nothing has. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all of these things
increased value.
Yes. Yeah, so all of these things that we're talking about hasn't increased any.
That's like the statue and the flag has not improved the betterment of Black Americans.
It is again.
That is it. That's it, point blank.
Yeah, well,
If you can directly point to a metric or something that says, because I took that flag down or because I took that statue down in that city, it improved black people, then I'll eat my words. But
okay, well, here is the next metrics would be the next thing where they eliminate Mitch McConnell. The next metrics would be the simple fact of, hold on, wait. Well, if I could.
Probability. What is? Which
what we're
what has happened and what has not happened.
Okay, now what has happened, okay, is the removal of the statue. And let's use the analogy that Eric said. If you therefore take a dilapidated property and you move a brick, it doesn't improve the quality. You move on to the next step, and the next step, and the next step to increase it. We cannot do this overnight. There is no magic pill that we're going to wake up the next day and this is done. It has to be progressions, and we have to stay diligent to the progression.
Right. So what do we need? 400 more years of progression?
No, we don't need 400 more years, but what we do need is a great deal of people to stay focused and stop falling for the shiny objects. Focus on what has been oppressing us with this racism.
Right, but you're not focusing on what's been oppressed. You're focusing on a goddamn statue.
No, I'm not focusing on a statue. What I am focusing on is the progress and the change.
Vincent, everyone, hear this. If I'm not mistaken, they did take the Confederate flag off of the State House of Georgia, right?
Yes.
They took it down, but check, 2 months ago, 2 white guys just killed a black guy in the middle of the street. One of them is a former police officer.
Right.
What's changing? What's changing?
What's changing?
They're taking the statues down, bro.
Okay, now let me tell you what's changing in that scenario. What's changing is this. Now, there are 3 people being prosecuted for murder. And 10 years ago, they would have got off scot-free.
Pause. That's not true at all. Okay?
Really?
The only reason they're being prosecuted is because 10 years ago, not everybody had a goddamn cell phone. And
That's what I'm talking about, baby. The change.
No, but that has nothing to do with the... That has nothing to do with...
I'm going to take it to Texas.
Right.
And we agreed about this about 2 weeks ago. 10 years ago, or actually it was 20 years ago, right? Because George Bush was governor of Texas when white guys lynched a black man, and what did they do? They got the death penalty.
That's right.
So don't tell me, okay? So it's not about no 10 years ago. Again, it don't change because it's in their heart. Racism ain't because of no statue, bro.
Brother, listen to me. And I'm saying, and I'll say again, yes, racism is in their heart, and they can do that. And we cannot change what's in a person's heart. That is up for them to do it. But what we can do is make it very, very difficult for them to have the rest of their life living in comfort when their racism does show up.
Right. So, wow, we're at 11:50 already. Jeez.
Change, even marginal, is still change. Let's just move to the next step.
We haven't moved forward.
We haven't moved forward. We moved backwards. But this is the point that I keep trying to make, and I don't want to belabor it anymore, Vincent. I'm simply saying, go look at every key metric. We, as a people, have moved backwards. We moved backwards in every key metric. Every one of them. Every single one of them. Name one that we've moved forward in. One.
Well, let's see. Well, we moved forward, and we're at the top of the heap in unemployment right now. I'm looking at that metric.
What do you mean we're at the top of the heap?
Yeah, well, they're looking at the metrics of unemployment, the people who have actually signed up, and what they said is that it is now 74% people of color.
Right. That's right. So we're at the bottom.
So, now...
Wait a minute. Wait. I don't understand your point.
What I'm saying to you is this. Let us now move the metrics. Let us focus our energy on this oppression and getting the boot off our neck.
Vincent. So this is what I'm getting out of this, right? The denial. Right? The denial.
Oh, no, see, there is no denial, brother. I know who I am.
No.
I know what I am and how they see me.
No, Vincent, no. What I'm saying is this: the denial of data, right? So when I say that we haven't progressed, right? That when we look at all of these metrics, we haven't progressed, and there's a discussion about taking flags down and taking statues down, and that things have improved, and I'm going, well, show me. Diane says, show me.
Okay.
And so I think it's the illusion.
But the flag coming down isn't showing you. A black person now being the mayor of Flint, Michigan isn't showing
Wait a
you.
minute, Vincent.
Them taking down the racist
But
statue
Vincent,
of the mayor
you keep
isn't
going
showing
down
you.
the same. You keep going around in the same mulberry bush, Vincent. You know what'll show me when I see that the unemployment numbers in Michigan for black people have improved. When I see that the educational opportunities for the people in Michigan have improved, or Ferguson rather have improved. When I see that the disparities in terms of people being locked up don't exist. See, just because you put a black face in there, see, this is for me, the shiny object seems to be the black face. You're telling me about a black mayor. I want to know about these metrics. I want to know what's happening there. I don't want to know about Lightfoot in Chicago. I want to know. So part of the clip that I played talked about the negotiation with the union in Chicago to wipe out these records from these police officers who have these who've commit right. So I want to know what
now. But here's the thing, Eric. So what you are talking about is the same thing that I'm saying. For you to actually see the metrics, it's going to take two important things. One, us staying consistent with this movement, and two, time to see the results.
No.
Again, you guys are talking like, okay,
what we're talking about. You can't be on both sides of the fence.
What do you mean?
We gotta sit and wait, and then tell me that we've had improvement.
Because the woman just got the job.
No, but Vincent, but here's where I think the divide is here. We're saying to you very clearly there have been no improvements. We've moved backwards. What you're saying is that there have been improvements. Be patient. That is the conversation that we're having right now. You're trying to convince me that is not P but rain. That I'm saying no, it's P. You know, it's rain. Just wait and see. And we're saying no, that's not
what
it.
I'm telling you is that there is P, and they just brought you an umbrella.
Okay. Anyhow.
So
what do you say? What is the quote? And you can finish it for me, Vincent. That you don't argue with fools
and babies.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with that quote.
Is it babies?
But what I will say to you is this, and I agree with you 100%. I'm saying that there has been change. It has just happened. Give it time for the agents of change to make the changes.
You know what? See, I had another. So here's where I think we can. Well, I don't know if we'll ever agree on this, Vincent, but I think. So here's what I'm going to say. There's been change, but no improvement. There's been change, but no improvement. So we've changed out governors, we've changed out mayors, we've changed out this, we've taken down flags, we've taken down statues, we've done all of that. We've made change, but we've had no improvement.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Okay.
So now let's focus. Now let's focus on the improvement.
Right. And so for me, I don't want the change anymore. I don't want it. It ain't working. I want the improvement. The change ain't working. It hasn't worked.
Brother Eric, listen, you got to understand that not everybody just gets into a wham, bam, thank you, man. Some people like foreplay. You can't get it overnight. Okay?
Well, I'm not talking overnight.
An appropriate analogy, I wish you would stop using sexual analogies to make your point.
Yeah, and I'm not talking. I'm saying W.E.B. Du Bois, and I mentioned this to you guys, right? In 1899, talked about these disparities and how they how they disadvantage black people in terms of health care. Right? That was in 1899. And so wait a minute, Vincent. So you go, it ain't gonna happen overnight. So I'm going, well, that's 1899. And so here we are in the middle of a pandemic, and you got people talking about how black folk, because of underlying conditions and no access to health care, are dying at disproportional rates. And you go, no, but just wait. Just wait. I'm going, well, wait a minute. He was having that conversation in 1899. 1899. We talk about, or in this show, I talk about Dr. King, right, in 1952. Having conversations. So I say yes, there have been changes, but no improvements.
Well, let's see. We look at the disproportionate.
Gentlemen, I think y'all got it wrong. There's been improvement, but no change.
There's been what?
We've improved for black.
Well, I think there has been change and there has been improvements, but it all has been marginal.
This is how you know it's not change, because the same thing is happening. It's just happening less, and there's being better prosecution. So that's improvement. The same shit is happening. Blacks are getting killed by whites, police officers, everybody. We still have the lowest position in everything. We just have it a little easier. That's improvement. So it ain't changed. It's the same song. There's still a little different rhythm.
So,
but well, listen,
that's my point.
We're at 12 o'clock.
So my point is that what do we do next?
Right.
Let's move the needle forward.
Well, I think that the first, well, I look, and I'm gonna close.
Needle forward if you don't understand your
Right,
history.
that's what I was gonna say. I'm gonna close with this. You gotta know where you've been. You gotta know where you are before you move forward. The idea of
so
just
you
saying,
know where you're going. I understand
right.
that.
So the idea of simply saying, and this is what I think is the black dilemma. Right, so when everybody says, "Well, you know, we have to do," you can't get everybody to understand where we are. You can't get black folk to understand that black folks have America's boot on its neck. You can't get black folks to understand that.
No,
that young lady.
You can't get black folks to understand that America has their boot on the black folks' neck.
Right, that's what I said. I thought I said that.
But go ahead.
All right. So listen,
I understand the sentiment, but yeah.
Listen, we're at 12 o'clock. Yeah, but look, here's the reality, Diane. The discussions that we have here are literally discussions that I have in my family. Right? And I have with some close friends. And it's like, wow, we just had that discussion. Oh, we got to peel back another layer. We got to go back and we got to rehash that again. Okay, we take 2 steps forward. And then when I go, oh, man, I think that got to take 2 steps back, got to reevaluate, then take another step forward. But if we, with each other, have to be patient to do that, then that may be what it requires, I think. Maybe we take the stance that Harriet Tubman said. Look, I'm leaving. If you ain't coming,
and some people ain't coming.
There you go.
All right, guys.
Exactly.
Listen,
you have to take the stance of freedom or death. Make your choice.
Freedom or death. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Stay warm. Stay cool today. It's supposed to be 89 degrees. Please just check on your
elderly.
On your elderly, because with this being the first time, right? People are gonna crank their air conditioners up. You may wind up with, some outages and some other kinds of things. And stay hydrated. Make sure. Now I don't know. Maybe Diane, this is where those. Remember, I was ridiculing people for the designer face mask with the zippers and stuff.
This is when it's gonna come in handy.
This one's gonna come in handy. Put your little sippy straw through on the corner and get your sip on. But figure it out, guys, because it's gonna be hot. It's gonna be a hot one. 89 degrees. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Talk to you later. Have a good one.
Stay safe. God bless. If God's will, we'll be back tomorrow.